Hi, I'm Shivni and I'm an alcoholic. Do I need to switch to the gallery mode view? It doesn't, okay, well.
You do whatever you want, girl.
Okay, I think this works for me fine. Yeah, so thank you very much, Molly, for asking me to speak and to, be of service, because one of the first things I heard when I came into AA was if you're not dying, then if somebody asks you to do something in AA, to be willing, pretty much to say yes. And so that's something I've always sort of grown up when I came into AA. So my sobriety date is in 19th October 2005, and I got sober in Singapore at the meetings there. But when I first started going to meetings and everything, I found it really hard to be around that many. I have my stepmom's from Singapore, so I've been I stay at her place and then go for meetings. But I'm originally from the Maldives, and I don't have meetings here in the Maldives, which is why I have to travel to get meetings. And I've since been, so when I started working on eventually when I surrendered, I started going to meetings in Singapore, and then I traveled after that. But I just want to share a little bit of my background. I didn't really know what alcoholism is, and I've never really seen anybody in my family that drink. My dad stopped drinking at like when he was sort of 40 years old or so, and he did abuse alcohol, but he didn't drink alcoholically, which I understand today the difference. And and there was just one. I grew up in Sri Lanka. I left when I was 5 years old, and I saw this guy on the street, with a bottle, and he was called a drunkard, and that's just what he was. And it was like he was going to live that way for the rest of his life. And so I never really had an understanding, and I didn't know. Of course, when I picked up drinking, I guess I was in like when I was 17, 18, and prior to that I had not taken anything to drink. But I was at boarding school in England, and I remember even before I found alcohol, I was always finding a way to escape, whether it was in sports or playing with the kids on the street. I just would do something to get away. I didn't want to be home. I grew up in quite a bit of a toxic environment, and I wanted something to get me away quickly, and that I could enjoy. And of course, when I was younger, playing, cricket on the streets and with the kids on the street, it was really harmless, but it felt like from inside that I was always looking for something to get me out of a feeling of emotions of there was this in like inner discomfort that I used to feel. And eventually when I did find alcohol, and I drank for the effect, what it did for me. I never ever drank because I enjoyed the taste, or I liked, there was never social drinking for me. That from the moment I drank, it was because I wanted to not feel, I didn't want to be me. I didn't feel comfortable, and I just needed something, and that it was. And for the rest of the time, I pretty much went about different countries under the guise of being a student, and I drank, and I didn't get much into education. I pretty much failed. I was not accepted at university, except that because because the rest of my siblings were, and they just kind of took me in anyway on a probation basis. But that was my thing. It was like when I found alcohol, my whole life revolved around it. It was when I was going to drink, who I was going to drink with, and how much I was going to drink, which was anyway a given. It was like there was never ever enough for me. And I basically drowned myself for the rest of the time up until towards the end of university, just going to parties, going to different places. And what started happening for me was that I kept waking up towards, the later stage, and this is the progression of the illness. And I was like, I can't, everyone's, I'm drinking like everybody. I'm not that bad. Like, look at them. There's ambulances to pick them up from, I used to go to some parties, and, it was never really what was happening for me. And so I was like, well, I'm not that bad really. And it did get that bad, but in the way for me wasn't, because I didn't drive. It wasn't like a drinking issue with driving. It was more, it was that I came to a point where I could not control, I could not say, that I'm not going to drink today, and it's my sister's whatever, or some family get together. I was not able to show up at those family things sober, or like I was always high, I was always tipsy or drunk, and I became I started regretting. I had that remorse, and I had done things that I didn't want to do, where it was like I wanted it to be different. I thought, okay, it's going to be different if I do this, if I do that, if I drink with so and so, it's going to be different. And so it just continued in that way. And I began to trying to control my drinking. And in More About Alcoholism, when they talk about, smashing the idea of being, ever being able to drink like a normal person, like I get that. And I heard that when I came to the meetings. And I was trying desperately. I remember I quit. I moved countries. I made the geographical cures everywhere, because I thought I was in in this country where, like as a 100% Muslim country, and where I live though is on an island where I can drink, and there is alcohol available to me. But I thought it was because I had to drink secretly, but which I liked anyway, because I always liked drinking. Like I used to leave parties and go back and go drink some more. But so what I guess what I'm trying to say is that I heard the yet when I came into meetings, and my sister said she recognized something that was not, was not okay for me. Like I would do things that, like, be with her, like her boyfriend at the time, before I came out as a gay woman. And I felt incredibly out of control. Like there was nothing I didn't know. When I took that drink, I didn't know what was going to happen to me, and who I was going to hurt, and how much I would have hurted them. And so my life pretty much went on that way until when she was saying to me that you need help. And eventually I got to the place where I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, this is crazy. Like my life was only about doing this. And if I could just drink and like there was nobody else that was in, that I didn't hurt anybody, that'd be fine. I mean, obviously I wouldn't be here speaking to and be an alcoholic, but that wasn't the case. Like it increasingly got worse. And eventually I went into AA, and I went to see I saw a counselor in the US first, and she told me I was a borderline alcoholic, and I was like, oh, I'll show you. And anyway, my story then goes on to pretty much getting to a place of total surrender. So I went to England, I went to Singapore, like I shared in the beginning. I heard what people were saying. I started to listen to the similarities. I recognized that I was on this, that what it is, my sponsor said to me, I'm a garden variety alcoholic. Like it was a matter of a time for me, and what's going to happen. And I came to understand what was really wrong with me through working the steps and getting getting a sponsor. And I learned how to talk to people. I didn't know all of these things. It was like I was not me. I had this other person. Like I didn't know who I was. I was really lost all the time until I came into AA and started working the steps. And I saw through the steps that void that people were talking about. And I continue to work on I know that. So it didn't get that bad, but it was heading that way. My brother, who's an active alcoholic, he was in jail in Sri Lanka for a couple of days. And for him to, that's just, it's what happens. And I know it's jails, institutions, and death. And I've seen that now because I stayed in the beginning long enough to see the things that didn't happen to me, which would have happened eventually. And I'm just very grateful because what I thought, I thought I have a drinking problem, but I came in and I recognized that there was something really missing. I didn't have a higher power of my understanding. I didn't know how to live with other people. I couldn't get along. It was that selfishness, and that was all me. So today my life is incredibly so much better. There's so many things going on at the moment in my life that I have yet to work on with some of my other areas that I've got to, and the thing is that the 12 steps are taking me through that. The fellowship, the people that I've met are helping me, because now I know how to ask for help, and I know that that's just how it works. Like I don't know the things I thought I knew everything, but I don't. And so I'm just really very grateful to Alcoholics Anonymous and the life that it is giving me today, because I'm someone that I never thought, like I run a business. It was a business that I first started on nearly 17 years ago. I built a home with my partner that we're actually place of in breaking up at the moment, but we don't know what's happening with that. But I can handle these things today because of the 12 steps and having a sponsor and a fellowship. And I've just come to learn that that's what's wrong with me. I'm an alcoholic and I need the meetings. If I have a face-to-face meetings, I go to that. Then I do online meetings and I try to be of service when I can. And the topic I will choose today is on going to any lengths. And thank you very much again for asking me to speak. And thank you. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivni.
Thank you, Shivni.
Thanks for sharing.